unplugged.
Wait, we can't see you, Abby.
Sorry, my thing unplugged.
Hi, this is Quisha, Abby, Cynthia, and LaTanya.
Hi.
We're back this week again today, and we just want to have another open therapeutic conversation. Just talking about this week. Today, we're going to talk about some things going on in the world around us. So, our conversation is going to start off with either one of you lovely ladies that want to talk about anything. Anything on your mind? Anything you want to say? Anything you know that's going on?
Okay, well, since you put it like that, I know a few things that has occurred since the pandemic. Okay, within 10 days, sustained protests. Minneapolis bans use of chokeholds. And as you all know, the officer that killed George Floyd, his charges has been upgraded to second-degree murder. Dallas adopts a duty to intervene rule that requires officers to stop other officers who are engaging in inappropriate use of force. New Jersey Attorney General said the state will update its use of force guidelines for the first time in 2 decades. In Maryland, a bipartisan work group of state lawmakers announced a police reform work group. Los Angeles City Council introduced motions to reduce the LAPD's $1.8 million operating budget. MBTA in Boston agrees to stop using public buses to transport police officers to protesters. Police brutality captured on cameras leads to a near immediate suspension and firing of officers in several cities, Buffalo and Fort Lauderdale. Momentum celebrating Confederate are removed in cities in Virginia and Alabama and other states. Streets in front of the White House is renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza. Military forces begin to withdraw from DC. And that's it.
Okay, so one thing you said was like the monuments have been like being torn down in different states,
Yes.
like the Confederate monuments. And I think that is like a huge deal. How do you think that
Take the dress and let's go.
how do you think that people who support the Confederate flag and look at it as a sign of like I don't know, pride or whatever that it may be, how do you think they're going to react to the removing of the Confederate monuments? Because like I seen the monument of like General Lee and somebody else being removed in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And they like some protesters replaced that monument with the statue of like a black lady who was like pregnant with something on her back, and she's like holding up her fist. How do you feel? How do you guys think that people who support the Confederate flag or support racism, Confederacy, how do you think they're going to react to the removing of these monuments and like replacing those monuments with the black woman with her fist up?
Well, I think over time, they're going to be initially angry, but they're just going to have to adjust because these things that they had in place was in place for decades, and it's time for a change.
Do you think that removing those gives a strong enough like symbol or sign to other people, like we're not going to tolerate racism anymore, we're not going to tolerate what this Confederacy stood for?
Yes.
Do you think that would be like a wake-up call to people, like, we're not tolerating this anymore?
Well, some people are gonna always be racist, no matter what. They just, they just hell bent on being racist, and I don't think anything is gonna ever change their views. But but a lot of white people they tired just like we're tired. So the ones
Yeah.
that's not tired and enjoy being racist, I really don't know what's gonna happen to them. They gonna mess around and do something dumb and wind up in jail, along with the rest of them.
I just don't understand what they're gonna benefit off of being racist, or like, and to your question earlier, like, what do I think their reaction is gonna be? I really don't care. And I think a lot of people just don't care what their reaction will be or what they think anymore, because there's just no place for it.
Right, because it's been going on for far too long, for 400 years in a day. That's just entirely too long.
Right.
I think in the
So
beginning,
I was thinking. Go ahead, Tanya.
I think in the beginning they may like trying to be like defiant, but I think eventually you will find more people conforming. If as time goes on, you have the ones that probably just won't ever change, no matter what is did. But you'll have a lot of people that basically will conform, and as our kids and future generations is getting older and older, you will find less and less of that happening.
Yeah, I don't. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Finish.
I don't know if it's necessarily gonna change a lot. Like I said, people that's just racist, I don't think it's gonna change. But I was wondering to myself, like, is it gonna give them an idea though, even though that you still hold these beliefs, it's not okay for you to exercise these beliefs here.
Right.
I think that's more the message, instead of them like, I don't know. I hope it changes a lot of people's mind and a lot of how the world has been working all this time. But I think more so the message is like, you may believe this, but we're not accepting it any longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also thinking, like, a lot of times, especially like what are they called? Is it called white nationalists?
Yes.
White supremacist.
A white supremacist.
Yeah.
What you say, Abby?
Yeah. So
I couldn't.
She said a neo-Nazi, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, the KKK.
So yeah, I was wondering, like, since this has happened and they've done it, they did it overnight. First thing, they didn't do it during the day when there was like a lot of traffic. They did it in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They removed all these statues in the middle of the night, but people were still there taking pictures, and like it was like a smaller group of people. But they did it so that it wouldn't be like a riot or an uproar. They did it in the quiet of the night, or they just removed them and took them down or whatever. And I was thinking, like, will that result in a protest? Like, I don't care if it results in a protest, like if you're gonna whatever. But I was thinking, like, a lot of times white nationalists protest a lot of things that they want to keep the same.
Well, they're not gonna demolish these statues. They're gonna put them
in a museum or something. Something they said, and not a museum, but like a storage.
They can carry their sorry butt to the museum and watch them.
It just blows my mind that people like, why is that something to get about? These are people who kind of like horrible representations. Why is it such a big deal that they're torn down?
Because people want to hold on to what those statues stood for.
Yeah.
And people who are openly racist.
Yes.
And
so do you guys go ahead?
I just like right now, and I'm ignorant for thinking it, but I think that those people are outnumbered at this point.
I don't think you're ignorant for thinking that.
No, I don't either.
Just looking at like the protests and people that I personally know on like my Facebook, white people that I personally know on my Facebook, and how they have been vocal and stating like Black Lives Matter, and how they've been like I know this one girl I went to school with, like how you said the other week, like you got into it with your brother-in-law. She got into it with someone in her family because she posted something, and they're like, no, they like he was like nitpicking one word or something that was in the thing, and then she's like, that there's a bigger picture. And her sister like came on like, you're wrong, there's a bigger picture, and if you're this type of person, we can't be friends, like period. If you can't believe in basic human rights, we can't be friends. I shouldn't have to argue with you about human rights.
Yes.
So I don't think that you're ignorant or naive for thinking that. I think that there is a tide changing, like a tide. There's a change in the tide where there are more people banded together despite race, sexual identity, and all that.
Yeah, you know why? Because there's a lot of interracial marriages and stuff, and people that's married, that's involved in interracial marriage, it's affecting them too, and they're tired and fed up. Because you can't control who you love, right?
Yeah.
True.
I was reading something because I also have to do like the blog for the other part of the internship I'm doing for those hours. And one of the posts that I'm going to write on is like raising children with like racial awareness or just racial respect. And part of like the research I'm doing for that on like how different generations are, and especially like when it comes to raising their kids in that area. And one of the things, a lot of the points I came across in each of these articles that I found is like millennials are one of the biggest, well, we are the biggest generation, or at least like I'm a millennial. I was born in 93. So like my generation is, we grew up in a time of like technological advancements and racial equity or something like that. But like our generation, from what I've read, is like the most progressive generation. That, and I think like Generation X, that's the generation before millennials, are like another super progressive relationship or generation where it's like we're teaching our kids more than older generations to be like, to understand like there are different races, but everybody's like, we're all people and everybody needs to be treated the same. Like that was something interesting that I found looking all that stuff up.
Yeah, I can see that just in life. I'm like the beginning of the millennial period. Like the older millennial, whatever. But yeah, and I can see that too. Like just people in my generation, they're more open. They have more friends of different races, of different sexual identities. Just they're more willing to accept people just as people. Like if you have a problem with a person, it's not necessarily because of their race, but more so that you just don't get along. Your personalities just don't mesh well. But you said something about like teaching your kids like about race and like I guess how to respect people, kind of. And I read something yesterday that was about like a thing about people saying I don't see color, and other people saying, well, that's not the point. It's not the point to not see color. It's the point to see color and see everybody's different colors and respect each person the same.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think if a person say they don't see color, they're not being true to themselves. How could you say you don't see color when you see that my color is different from your color? To me, they're not being truthful.
Everybody sees, even
And
kids.
I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing color.
Even kids,
Right.
even kids see color. I have a associate who's a daycare manager at a daycare. She said on Facebook that it is very important for us as parents to teach our kids from a very young age about race. She said she had a kid in her class that came up to her and literally took her hand and tried to scratch the color of her skin off of her hand, and he couldn't do it, so he kept trying harder to scratch that off of his skin, scratch her color off. And she was like, baby, no matter how hard you scratch me, it's not going to change. I'm brown. And she said on Facebook that it's important that we teach our kids from a very young age, as soon as they can understand about, different colors, people being different colors, because it's important that they know that.
Yeah, and we need to teach them along with that. People, hold on, y'all. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right about that, because I remember when my son was 1 year old, and he had Latino friends that he used to play with across the street. And then I don't know what brought the conversation up, but I was letting him know that he was African American and that he was Black, because he was saying he want his hair to be like their hair. He want his hair to be blonde. He didn't want his hair to be Black. And I said, but you're Black. He said, I'm not Black. I'm not Black. I'm white. He didn't understand that because he was only 1 year old, because he was much lighter than me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in his mind, since he had white friends or Latino friends that's of a lighter complexion, he believed that he was also white.
Yeah.
And kids are innocent at that age. I think racism is taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they all need to know that we come in different colors, but we're still the same. We still have a heart. We still have the same organs. We still have the same, red blood. They need to know, but they need to know about that. She's just saying that it's important that we talk to our kids about that.
Yeah, but it's hard at age 1 for them to really understand that.
I think she's saying do it when they're young, and they because they understand that to be like something you talk about. I'm not, maybe not as 1, 2. I would say no, but more like probably like 5. Because they know more than you think they know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my niece went to preschool, and she's light skinned. She kept saying she was white. She's like, I'm a white girl, and I was like, you're not. Both of your parents are Black, but you do have a real light skin. And she really came home one day and was like, I'm an African American. And we were like, what? You've always been an African American. And she was real shocked, because she went to school with Hispanic kids, so she thought she was white, and I'm like, no. And my sister-in-law just literally had to sit down and tell her, like, people come in all colors, even though you may be Black. You may be really light, you may be dark, you may be a white person and be light or be dark. There's all different kind of shades. And just explaining to her that even though you're Black, you're still the same. You're not, you're still the same as you were before when you thought you were white.
Yeah.
Right.
They do know a lot more than what we think.
Yeah, they do.
Like, I understand, like, some kids saying, like, I don't see color, because, like, I used to, like, not, like, say that, but I used to kind of, like, think that way, but I wasn't, like, I was raised to focus on the content of somebody's character and not, like, what they look like on the outside. So, like, that's, like, something I would say to myself, like, not, I wouldn't tell people, like, oh, I can't acknowledge, like, that you're, like, Mexican or that you're Black or whatever, because but I would say that in, like, my head, because I was way more focused on, like, who they were as a person, and just, like, the content of their character than, like, what they.
Right.
Yeah.
So I like
Yeah.
that. But like now, like even now, like my son's only 3, but I still want to teach it. One of his friends goes to daycare with all kinds of like Middle East, Black, like there's all kinds of kids at his daycare. And like
Oh.
friends is well she's actually my friend. She's Mexican, but like her son is Black and our kids play together, and for like his birthday he got him like a little black baby doll, and he loves that doll. But like I want him to be raised acknowledging people's skin color, but understanding that he, just because we all are different and like look different, we still have to treat each other with the same like mutual respect.
Yeah, that's good. I wish everyone had had your idea, and everyone adopted your idea and treated everyone like that. This would be a better world.
Yeah, I purposely, my husband and I, we purposely, we live in a, 99% Black. It might not be 99%, I might be exaggerating, but like 90% Black neighborhood. And our kids go to schools with a lot of Black kids, a lot of Mexican or Latino kids, and not a lot of white kids. Their teachers are a lot of white teachers, but we purposely, I grew up in like a 99% white neighborhood, and my husband comes from, both Black and white neighborhoods. So we purposely like take our kids like outside of our neighborhood to interact with kids from other neighborhoods. Like for so long, they did football in another neighborhood where my husband works at, like Oak Park out there in that area. We did at Elmwood Park, just to give them that interaction, with different people, and know how to make friends with people of different races, different cultures, know how to communicate. And so that those kids too could also interact with our kids and know how to interact with Black kids and know how to build friendships and be friends. We do that like a lot so they know how, because a lot of a lot of Black kids who live in the inner city don't even know how to interact with white people who are not an authority figure. They've only seen white people who are teachers, who are police officers, who are principals. They've never seen someone who is a peer and on the same level as them and know how to interact and build those friendships. And the same thing goes for, white kids that go to the schools that are predominantly white. They don't know how to interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know why that is, Quisha? Because a lot of white people, I'm not saying all, but majority of them do not want their kids to go to a school where there are Black students. They purposely put their kids in a Catholic school where it's majority whites.
And that could be true, but it's also the neighborhood you live in. If you live in a predominantly Black neighborhood, the kids are going to be predominantly Black. If you live in a predominantly white neighborhood, the kids are going to be predominantly white. My best friend is Black, and she's half Black, half Puerto Rican, and her husband's Black. Her kids go to St. Luke, and she lives in the suburbs, and she sends her kids to private school. And it wasn't because of like a race issue. It was because the school is better than her schools in her neighborhood. And her schools in her neighborhood aren't really bad schools compared, if you go down the list of bad schools. She just wanted something better. She wants something that I guess she has more say so in, because in private schools, parents have more say than in public school.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure there is a race, component to it, but that's not just a thing. But that's why, as parents and as a new generation, we have to introduce our kids to different races and help them to build those relationships, those friendships. So, because that's what kills racism.
Yeah.
If you know someone, if you have a close relationship, and not just with one person, like people have one Black friend or one white friend, and they're like, oh, I got a Black friend, or I got a white friend. But outside of that friend, what do you think about that race?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know people that have a Black friend and still are racist. And they say, oh, not you. I don't know how that ends. Like,
Right. That's
or-
really something to think about. That's
right.
really
And I know my husband works at Oak Park, River Forest High School, and if you guys know anything about it, like I said in another video, it's historically white, historically
Yes.
racist.
Yeah.
He has so many friends of different cultures, different races, because of just his character. But he has also been the victim of so many racist allegations and different targets for just because he's black, because he's a young black man. So he's seen
Right.
both sides of the coin. And as a coach, as a wrestling coach, he's also experienced racism there, where people may not want him to coach their child. But he's been able to, like, sometimes change minds, what he puts into the kids. So it's a lot of work. But we have for the fight on both sides, as black people, as white people, as Hispanic people, as like all people, to come together and like say enough is enough.
Right.
We don't want to be racist against black people. We don't want to be racist against white people. We don't want to be racist against Latinos. We want to be able to get along. But it's first starting with the race that is targeted the most, and that's black people.
And
So
you know
when
what?
people say, like, why are we?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut
Go
you
ahead.
off.
I'm listening to you. I'm done. Go ahead.
I think the reason why it's important what you just said, to piggyback on what you said, is because we're supposed to be a model country, but we're not.
Well, this country was built on slavery, and we stole land from people who were already here before. So didn't have
But
very.
they claimed they was making it better. It was supposed to have been better when they abolished slavery, but they didn't.
No.
So now it's on us as a people to make it better. To continue, you just read out the things that have happened from consistent protesting. So that means that it's working. Protesting is working. So we have to keep at it. Changing minds is working. Making our voices heard is working. So we have to keep it. We can't lose the momentum. If you're sharing things on Facebook, statuses, about how the things that you just read, how the protests have helped, videos of police brutality, so people can see these things. If you're doing that, that's a form of protesting. That's a form of saying, I'm not going to stay quiet anymore.
Oh, okay.
You might not be able to get out there and get on the street.
Right.
But everybody has their own part in it. If you're having hard conversations with your friends and family about Black Lives Matter and Black human rights and what's right and what's wrong and what shouldn't be, you're doing your part. Because, one person can't change the world, but we can change our little circle and the people that we interact with. We can work hard to change those things. And by doing that, little by little, the world will start changing around us.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Like, the Black Lives Matter Plaza, really, I really like that. It really put a smile on my face when I saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right in front of the White House. That's
I wonder what Trump had to say about that.
He probably didn't like it, but he don't have no say so.
He probably want to go throw some paint on it.
He probably do.
I can't stand that man.
I'm just hoping that this momentum carries on into voting time. When it's time to vote for a new president.
I hope.
And if you guys in here, I put something on my Facebook page. They were basically saying that when you go out to vote, basically know who you're voting for. What it used to have on the side where you had names and they would tell you if the person was Republican or Democrat, it's not going to be like that anymore. It's just going to have the names of the people. So we need to do our research to know who we are actually voting for, because the setup is totally different.
Yeah,
are they going to give us a list of the names that are running, Because we don't know all the congressmen and stuff like that, all the people in the House.
Well, you can Google it and it'll give you who's running.
So wait, they're gonna start doing that where they're
And it,
Democrat, who's Republican. They're just kind of giving the names and then that's it.
They're giving the names of the people. They're not gonna put like usually they have the names and they have let you know if they're Democrat or Republican. It's not gonna be like that. But online on my website on Facebook, you can go on vote411.org and they will give you all the list of the names of the people and who they are. That way you could do your research and find out exactly who you're voting for. Because some people just go in and they see Democrat, they just check Democrat, or they see Republican, they check Republican because they don't really know the names of the people. So this time you won't have that. You won't have that advantage. You're gonna actually know who you're voting for. Have to know who you're voting for.
That is
That's good information.
So you can go on vote411.org and do your
Vote411.org.
yes, vote411.org.
they should have done that a long time ago because honestly, and I've done it too, like I've been guilty of it too. I have always, and I like to throw out my political beliefs out there, but like I have always voted Democrat. Always.
Me too.
I didn't care who, like what it was or what they were doing or whatever. I mean, like some people I researched, but for the most part, I was always going Democrat. But I like that they're doing that. It makes people like research who they're voting for because that's the most important part of voting is knowing what they stand for, what they're gonna do, what they're gonna change.
And I just hope everybody knows this information. That's why
I agree.
Because a lot of people are gonna walk in there thinking they can do the same thing and they can't. So it may be a disadvantage if you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I'm putting it out there so people can know before they get there, because it is a big disadvantage because people are gonna think it's gonna be the same and it's not.
Mhm.
He is gonna like say something about that so that like everybody knows.
Yeah.
I wonder why they didn't announce that on the news.
You know, Candy Burris, the one who plays on Housewives of Atlanta, she found out and she put it on Facebook Live. And so when I seen her on Facebook, I started sharing it.
Oh, I'm gonna go and look on your page and share it.
Yeah, because people need to know.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a tidbit of information for y'all. Go on, what is it? Vote411.org.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vote411.org. We want to carry this momentum to the polls and get some people in offices that want a change and are going to fight for a change in how our nation is run. That is our time for this video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys later in the week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.